Trail, a fiery kickoff rally by presidential contender Joe Biden yesterday. The former VP pushing a message of unity while hammering President Trump as the divider-in-chief. Biden acknowledging his approach breaks with some voices in his party.
I know some of the really smart folks say Democrats don't want to hear about unity. They say Democrats are so angry that the angrier a candidate can be, the better chance he or she has to win the Democratic nomination. Well, I don't believe it. I really don't. I believe Democrats want to unify this nation.
Joining me now, progressive commentator and radio talk show host Rashad Richey and Boston Herald radio host Adriana Cohen, also a nationally syndicated columnist. Thank you both for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Rashad, what were your takeaways from Biden's kickoff speech?
Well, I thought he had a very unifying tone, and I think it's very important, Philip, to highlight the fact that during that speech, Biden said specifically that he will not talk negative of other Democrats. He's the first Democrat to say something like that, and it made that crowd go wild. I think he is starting to really fine-tune his message and also his methodology as far as delivering his message to people. So right now, you have a Joe Biden who's up in the polls by double digits. The guy seems to be untouchable at the moment, but we'll see what happens after the first presidential debate in June. Yeah,
after that first presidential debate, Rashad, and it gets a little tighter, let's say, do you think then he might start to have something negative to say about the other contenders?
I had a conversation with my friend this morning, and I said, we'll see what happens after that first debate, because as you know, Philip, people tend to start targeting individuals at that first presidential debate. I'm sure Bernie Sanders is coming in, guns blazing. Elizabeth Warren, guns blazing. So we'll see if Vice President Biden is able to remain above the fray, even with people specifically attacking him and his policies.
Adriana, do you see a candidate that presents a clear threat to President Trump?
No, I don't, because President Trump has delivered on the many promises that he's made to the American people on the economy, which is soaring. He's delivered on low unemployment for all Americans. He destroyed ISIS. He did prison reform. He's tackling immigration reform. And so the American people see how much he's a man of his word and how much he has accomplished, which is benefiting all Americans, especially with the booming economy and historically low unemployment. And so that's going to be very difficult for any candidate to go up against. And so President Trump will, present how strong the economy is. He's going to play that card as he should. And I think he's untouchable at this point, especially given the strong GDP and, the numbers we're staying on Wall Street.
Untouchable. Okay. Rashad, Rolling Stone has a new piece on Biden's rally titled, "Joe Biden Misses the Point. Political anger can be constructive." It calls Biden's message tone deaf and says anyone who isn't angry hasn't been paying attention. What's your take on that? Will Biden's unifying message resonate with Democrats, or do you think he's out of touch?
Well, obviously, it is resonating with the Democrats. Democrats are being polled on this very issue every single day. Biden is still leading the pack with Democratic voters, even a large percentage of progressive voters. And when you look at the crosstabs of the data, you see that progressive voters are choosing Biden because of electability. Well, that's them playing chess and not checkers. That's them, progressives, saying, hey, we'd rather have a guy who can actually defeat Trump rather than someone who can articulate 100% of our ideology. Something similar happened when Republicans decided to vote for Trump as president. They didn't go with Trump because he was an ideologue. They went with Trump because they felt as if he was a candidate that could be strong against a Hillary Clinton.
Adriana, President Trump will be holding his own rally in Pennsylvania tomorrow. That visit comes on the heels of a new analysis by Priorities USA that has Democrats rebuilding the blue wall in the Midwest by winning back Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Why is President Trump losing some of his support in those states? How seriously should his campaign take that?
Well, I think that, President Trump knows that he has to be strong in all the battleground states, as does his Democratic opponents. But look, let's talk about Pennsylvania. That's a state where President Trump has created thousands of manufacturing jobs. But then in contrast, if we look at the Obama-Biden years, that's a state that bled so many manufacturing jobs. So that's something that Joe Biden is going to have to be held to account, that blue-collar Americans are benefiting under the Trump economy. And so it'd be interesting interesting to see what Biden is going to present differently to some of these states like Pennsylvania.
Adriana, another factor that could reshape the 2020 race, new restrictions and bans on abortion in a growing number of states. Alabama signing the strictest ban yet this past week, with no exceptions for rape or incest. But President Trump broke from Alabama yesterday, tweeting that he is in favor of those exceptions, and he called for Republicans to be united on this. But do you think it's too late now that Alabama's ban has been signed into law?
No, I don't think it's too late, because there's many other states who are obviously are watching this issue. 4 other states have passed similar, heartbeat laws and are moving forward with that. I agree with President Trump. I think, banning abortion for victims of rape and incest is dead wrong. It goes too far. But on the other extreme, Democrats, like in New York, are going too far, allowing late-term abortion where the baby can live outside the womb. Many Americans consider that immoral. They consider it infanticide. They don't support partial birth abortion. And so I think what we're seeing is there's extremism on the left and on the right. And I think most Americans are more moderates in the middle. And so I think it's good that President Trump is taking the same position as Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was pro-life, but he didn't support abortion. I mean, he had carve-outs for a rape and incest or life of the mother. And that's the path that President Trump supports.
Rashad, all of this has brought Roe v. Wade center stage for 2020. Who do you think benefits from that, Democrats or Republicans?
Democrats benefit from it, Philip. Roe v. Wade was a landmark decision that basically said women under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution have a right to privacy and a right to due process. Let's talk about this Alabama law. While some may say that this is somewhat of a fringe law, many states have passed similar versions of this law. And in Alabama, it is more illegal, or people can get more time for actually trying to seek an abortion of a rape victim than the actual rapist himself. The rapist won't get as much time as a woman who tries to abort the fetus from the rapist. It's quite insane. And let's look at the numbers. The numbers suggest that under Democratic presidents, you actually have the sharpest decline of abortions throughout this country. Why? Because there's a real cause and effect relationship to programs that are in place to help a mother bear that child and bring that child into full term. Right now, a study was conducted that says 92% of all pregnancies that are aborted come because of unplanned or unwanted pregnancies. And that is something that should be debated, and policy should be made about it if you're truly pro-life.
Well, the debate will rage on. Rashad Ritchie, Adriana Cohen, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
Roe v. Wade, climate change.